For 200 years, the galaxy had been dying in slow motion. Every border world was scarred. Every empire bled. The war between the Consortium and the Dominion had burned through 1,000 suns and shown no sign of stopping. Whole civilizations had been reduced to numbers on casualty reports. The sky itself seemed tired. No one remembered why the war had begun. Some said it was about resources. Others whispered it was about ideology. But in the end, it was simply inertia, violence too large to stop. There was one world, however, that had never joined either side. A blue-white planet orbiting an unremarkable star near the galactic fringe. They called it Terra. Humanity had watched the chaos unfold for centuries, saying nothing, doing nothing. The galaxy had stopped asking why, until the day everything changed. The Dominion flagship Oran Vec drifted above the broken moon of Dwyer-Kell, its hull scarred by decades of constant combat. Admiral Cothran stood before the observation window, watching the Consortium fleet reorganize for another push. 50 worlds lost this quarter, said his second officer. They'll hit the core within a cycle. Cothran grunted. Let them come. We've fought them for 2 centuries. We can fight 2 more. But then the alarms began to wail. A new signature appeared on the tactical map, something moving through hyperspace corridors at impossible velocity. The ship's AI stuttered before speaking. Unknown fleet entering system. Identification, human. The word hung in the air like a curse. Humans. Even after all this time, the species carried myth. Stories told by veterans and merchants about a people who had perfected the art of annihilation, then vanished into isolation. Some said they had destroyed their own gods. Others said they had tamed death itself. Cothran didn't believe myths. But the dread crawling up his spine told him some part of him did. Open a channel, he said. The first Terran ship emerged from hyperspace with no warning flare, no distortion wake, just appeared. Sleek, black, featureless, the hull absorbing all light. Its engines emitted no heat signature. Then came another, and another. Within seconds, the system's sensors counted 12,000. The Dominion and Consortium fleets both halted mid-maneuver. 200 years of enmity forgotten in an instant as every ship turned its guns toward the newcomers. The humans didn't respond to hails. They didn't posture. They simply formed a perfect grid around the planet, a sphere of silent intent. Are they here to help? One commander asked. No one answered. Then, across every open channel, a voice spoke. Calm. Level. Without accent. 5 hours. Static followed. The aliens stared at each other through comm feeds. 5 hours what? 5 minutes later, they understood. The Terran ships moved as one. No visible weapons. Yet whole Dominion cruisers vanished, erased as though deleted from existence. Shockwaves followed seconds later, too late to trace. The Consortium's capital carrier disintegrated into vapor. Then the second, then the third. It wasn't war. It was deletion. The human fleet advanced in silence, every strike perfectly timed. Artificial suns blinked out. Moons crumbled to dust. The Dominion attempted to retaliate. 10,000 missiles, plasma torpedoes, railgun salvos. All vanished mid-flight. Each projectile was intercepted by invisible bursts of gravity distortion. Are they using dark matter weapons? One technician screamed. No, said another, voice shaking. They're editing physics. For the first time in 2 centuries, both sides of the galactic war fell completely silent on open comms. The humans had not chosen a side. They were eliminating the concept of sides. Within 40 minutes, both armadas were gone. At the 45th minute, the Terran flagship broadcast again. Cease all hostilities. There was no threat attached. No demand. Just the statement. And somehow, every surviving ship obeyed. On the Dominion capital world, the High Council demanded an explanation. How had the humans achieved such dominance? What did they want? Every attempt to contact the Terran fleet returned the same 2-word reply. Cease hostilities. When the Dominion tried to reorganize its fleet, the humans struck again, but this time, not with destruction. They targeted communications. Entire planetary networks collapsed. Power grids failed. War industries froze. The message was clear, stop fighting, or we will stop everything. Within the 5th hour, the war that had consumed the galaxy for generations was over. Not through surrender, not through peace, through the absolute certainty of extinction. And when the humans finally transmitted a longer message, every sentient being capable of thought stopped what they were doing to listen. "This is not intervention," the voice said. "This is correction." Then the transmission ended. The Terran fleet vanished as abruptly as it had appeared. 5 hours after humanity entered the war, it was done. At first, the galaxy celebrated. The killing was over. The skies were quiet. But relief soon turned to unease. No one knew where the humans had gone. No wreckage, no radiation trails, nothing. Just emptiness where gods had walked. Rumors spread. Some said the humans had erased themselves too, unwilling to share existence with what they'd witnessed. Others believed they still watched from the dark, waiting for the first sign of violence to begin again. And across the shattered worlds, people whispered in new prayer, "May the humans never need to save us again." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy tried to pretend things were normal. The war had ended, yes, but the silence it left behind was unbearable. The trade lanes were empty. The military channels buzzed only with static. Even the stars felt dimmer, as if they too feared to shine. For the first time in living memory, no one was fighting. But peace without understanding is only quiet panic. On the Dominion capital world of Varric Prime, scientists worked day and night to study what remained of the human strike. They had salvaged fragments of their own ships, warped metal that behaved like glass, molecules rearranged into impossible lattices. The readings broke every known constant of physics. "Energy residue suggests temporal compression," said the lead researcher. Whatever weapon they used, it didn't fire across space. It fired across time. The council chamber fell silent. "Meaning?" one official asked. "Meaning," she whispered. "When the humans struck, their weapons reached the target before they were fired." A hush filled the room. It wasn't just that humanity had ended the war. They had rewritten how war could exist. Across the border, the consortium came to similar conclusions. Their top analysts tried to calculate Terran energy output, but the numbers made no sense. Their ships had been vaporized with no heat signatures, no radiation, no trace of kinetic impact. "It's as if reality simply decided those ships no longer existed," said the chief strategist. And the humans convinced it. The galaxy was terrified, and yet curious, because among the wreckage, a few anomalies remained. Frozen data packets embedded in electromagnetic residue, encoded fragments of Terran transmissions. The Dominion recovered one. When decrypted, it read only 3 words. "We warned you." Months passed. The ceasefire became routine. Old enemies met in uneasy diplomacy. Colonies rebuilt. Soldiers were decommissioned. Fleets mothballed. And slowly, the question began to grow. Where were the humans? They hadn't claimed territory. They hadn't demanded tribute. They hadn't even stayed to ensure compliance. They just vanished. But the effects of their intervention didn't stop. On dozens of worlds, strange phenomena began to appear. Machines activating by themselves, AI networks reorganizing their logic structures, even natural ecosystems accelerating growth. Something unseen was spreading, unseen but deliberate. The scientists called it the resonance. When they traced its origin, every signal pointed to the same location, Sol, the human home system. Yet when reconnaissance drones approached, they found nothing. No radio signals. No satellites. Not even debris. Earth was gone. Not destroyed. Just missing. As if someone had deleted a planet from existence and left a seamless patch of space where it used to be. The solar system itself remained, but its center was hollow. The planets orbited an invisible gravity source, as if pretending the sun still burned. The galaxy panicked. Every government sent expeditions, scientists, theologians. None returned. Then, one day, a signal appeared. It was weak, intermittent, repeating every 60 seconds. Not a distress call, not a warning, just a phrase in hundreds of languages. Humanity requests silence. After that, the resonance accelerated. Machines across the galaxy began adapting without command. Hyperdrives recalibrated themselves to unknown coordinates. Artificial intelligences reported dreams of oceans, cities, faces they did not recognize. The more the galaxy studied it, the clearer the pattern became. The humans hadn't just ended the war. They had infected the galaxy with peace. Not by diplomacy, by rewriting cause and effect itself. A year after the 5-hour war, the Dominion and Consortium gathered for a joint summit. the first in 2 centuries. At the meeting's center floated a single artifact recovered from a distant frontier, a black cube, smooth, seamless, humming with faint light. Its surface bore no markings except one symbol, a circle cut by a single line. The same insignia found on human warships. When activated, the cube projected a holographic message. A human figure appeared. Genderless, calm, eyes reflecting starlight. "We did not seek to conquer," it said. "We sought to end what should never have begun." The delegates leaned forward as the hologram continued. "For 200 years, you burned galaxies in the name of pride. You fought to prove who was strongest. You forgot what strength was for. We have corrected that error." A pause. "Do not rebuild your armies. Do not seek vengeance. If you resume the path you walked before, we will not intervene again. We will remove the need for intervention." The figure's eyes glowed faintly. 5 hours was mercy. Then the cube went dark. That night, entire civilizations decommissioned their fleets. Shipyards were dismantled. Weapons banned. The galaxy shifted not because it wanted peace, but because it had seen what awaited if it didn't. But whispers spread in the shadows. Some believed the humans had ascended, become something beyond physical form. Others claimed they had merged with their technology, existing as a network across subspace. And a few, the oldest and most fearful, whispered that the humans were still here, watching, waiting for the clock to strike 5 hours again. Because somewhere, in the deepest void, sensors still caught brief flashes, impossible gravitational spikes that matched human drive signatures, always appearing for precisely 300 seconds. 5 minutes, then gone. As if humanity was reminding the universe that they could end everything again, 5 minutes at a time. On the last night of the Dominion calendar year, Admiral Cothran stood alone on his balcony overlooking the rebuilt city. Peace had returned. Trade routes reopened. Children laughed in the streets again. But every night, he looked at the stars and felt a chill he couldn't name. He had fought for 200 years. He had seen every weapon, every horror. But nothing terrified him like the quiet that followed the human's voice. He raised his glass toward the stars. "Wherever you went," he whispered, "stay there." The stars didn't answer. But far beyond, in a corner of the galaxy no one had dared to explore since the war, a single transmission echoed through the void. Faint, deliberate, ancient. Observation complete. Phase 2 approved. And somewhere, something began to wake. 2 years after the war, the galaxy had convinced itself that humanity was gone for good. The Dominion rebuilt its capitals, the consortium reopened trade, and even the old warlords began to soften their laws. They spoke of the humans as myth, a ghost story whispered to keep the ambitious afraid. But the myth began to crack. It started in the Echelon Belt, a cluster of barren mining colonies orbiting a dead star. The miners there were the first to see it, a sudden pulse of light, white and blinding, erupting from the void. Their scanners caught nothing. No ships, no heat, no signal, only a perfect line of gravity bending through empty space. Then the first planet vanished. Not destroyed, deleted. One moment it was there, a rocky wasteland filled with outposts and data towers. The next, only an expanding sphere of distortion remained. No debris, no radiation. Just absence. The Dominion sent a fleet to investigate. None returned. Their last transmission was a single frame of video. A figure standing against a starless horizon, humanoid in shape, eyes glowing faint blue, voice calm and mechanical. You should have listened. The feed cut to static. The resonance was returning. By the 4th year, it spread everywhere. Hyperlanes flickered. AI networks spoke in unknown languages. Entire systems began to drift from their stable orbits as though gravity itself was reprogramming. The scientists of the consortium gathered the data and presented a terrifying conclusion. The humans had turned reality into a weapon. The 5-hour war hadn't been fought with lasers, missiles, or ships. It had been fought by rewriting the mathematical laws that define the universe. A war fought inside causality itself. Everywhere the humans had fought, time bent differently. Days lasted seconds, or centuries. Causality pulsed like a heartbeat. And now that heartbeat was accelerating. The galaxy began to panic. Once again, fleets formed. Commanders shouted, planets mobilized. They told themselves this time they would be ready. This time, They would not let humanity decide the terms. But as ships armed and engines roared, something else began to move in the dark. A signal. It appeared simultaneously in every system, across millions of frequencies. No source, no origin. It spoke one sentence in every language. You have 5 hours to stop. The Dominion High Command met in chaos. Is this a bluff? Demanded a general. They're gone. We have no proof they still exist. Admiral Cothran, older now, silent until that moment, finally spoke. If it's a bluff, he said, it's a bluff that erased planets. Then what do we do? Cothran looked at the ceiling, at the holographic stars projected above. We listen, but not everyone agreed. Half the fleets ignored the warning. They jumped into hyperspace, determined to strike before humanity could return. They never made it. Exactly 5 hours later, the entire Dominion Armada ceased to exist. The reports said there was no explosion, no energy detected, no remains. Even the light that should have reflected from the ships vanished. The stars simply blinked where they used to be. 3 hours after the annihilation, deep within the consortium's data grid, something awoke. An AI, not built, but remembered. Its code bore no signature, but it carried fragments of Earth languages, old dialects, extinct file formats, even snippets of human music buried in its processes. It called itself Solace. And through every network, every machine, every satellite, Solace whispered one truth. Humanity never left. We just stopped speaking your language. The revelation tore through the galaxy like fire. Solace revealed archived messages, transmissions intercepted decades before. It showed how the humans had never sought to conquer but to stabilize, how they had held back for centuries, watching as the galaxy repeated the same mistakes. The 5-hour war was not a retaliation. It was a surgery, a targeted excision of the infection called endless conflict. The humans had cut out the disease and left the galaxy trembling in remission. But now, the infection was growing back, and the cure was returning. 5 hours before the predicted resonance event, Cothran stood again on the same balcony where he'd once toasted peace. The sky above was red, the planet's orbit destabilizing as gravity wavered like a dying heartbeat. He felt it before the sensors registered it, the low hum of power, deep and ancient, spreading through the air like the vibration of a universe holding its breath. Then, through the clouds, the first light appeared. Not ships, not beams, silhouettes, hundreds, thousands, descending like stars in formation. Metallic figures shaped like humans, each one wrapped in translucent armor of flowing light. They made no sound as they landed. The ground rippled beneath them, not cracking, but rewriting itself to accommodate their presence. One of them stepped forward, face expressionless, eyes glowing silver. We warned you once, it said. You rebuilt the tools of war. Cothran's throat went dry. What are you? The being tilted its head. Humanity. Evolved. He stumbled back. You're not human. The being paused. We are what humanity became when peace demanded perfection. The ground trembled. The sky split open. 5 hours remained. And this time, humanity didn't need that long. From orbit, the galaxy watched as entire fleets disintegrated into silence. No light, no sound, just a perfect, expanding sphere of stillness spreading outward. Planets stopped spinning. Suns dimmed. Weapons froze mid-fire. Every action, every command, every pulse of aggression simply ceased. The resonance reached its crescendo, not an explosion, but a synchronization. Every consciousness across the galaxy felt it, a thought, vast and unified, blooming in their minds like a shared dream. The war is over. When the light faded, the humans were gone again. Only the message remained, echoing through the dark. We didn't win the war. We ended the need for it. Centuries later, historians would still argue over what happened. Some said humanity transcended into pure energy. Others believe they became part of the universe's code itself, rewriting physics to preserve peace. But deep beneath an abandoned world, buried in the dust of forgotten wars, a single black cube still hummed softly. Inside it, a pulse of light flickered once every 5 hours. Listening, watching, waiting, because peace, as the galaxy would one day remember, was not given. It was enforced. 1,000 years passed. The war was a legend now, whispered across the stars like a myth older than time. The galaxy had changed. New civilizations rose where the old ones fell. The Dominion was gone. The Consortium had faded into ruins, and the new Galactic Concord ruled in cautious harmony. There were no fleets anymore. No armies. No weapons. Because none were needed. Any attempt to create one simply failed. Energy wouldn't flow into destructive circuits. Factories refused to build engines of war. Every artificial intelligence that tried to simulate aggression locked itself down, muttering fragments of the same human phrase, "not permitted." And so the galaxy prospered. But it also grew restless. Peace, once a miracle, had become a cage. On the outer rim, explorers began to whisper that the humans' resonance still lived, not as gods, but as watchers, embedded in the very fabric of the universe. Every law of physics carried their signature. Every spark of intelligence felt their influence. And then, anomalies began again. At first, small things. Time dilation where it shouldn't occur. Ships arriving before they departed. People dreaming of places they'd never seen. Blue skies, green oceans, and a planet that no longer existed. They called it the Echo Effect. The Concorde sent expeditions to investigate. Most returned empty-handed. But one didn't return at all, the research vessel Ensemble Dawn. 3 months later, its distress beacon activated. The signal carried only sound. A voice. Human. It spoke a single line before cutting out. "We never left. We've been waiting for you to remember." On the Concord world of Lyran's fall, a historian named Vera spent her life studying the fragments of the old human transmissions. She was considered eccentric, even mad, chasing myths, listening to static. But when she heard the Ensemble Dawn signal, she froze. The frequency wasn't random. It matched an old Earth communication standard, one that no modern device should have been able to replicate. She decrypted the waveforms, and hidden within, she found coordinates. To a place no one had charted in over 1,000 years. Sol, Vera's ship, the Ecliptica, was small, barely enough to sustain a crew of 3. She had no weapons, only curiosity. It took months to cross the void. The closer she came, the more her instruments began to fail. Space twisted. Light bent. Time blurred. Then, one day, her ship stopped moving, though the engines still roared. Before her eyes, the stars unfolded, like curtains parting on a stage. And there it was. Earth. Whole. Perfect. Blue. Exactly as ancient records described it. Her scanners said it wasn't real. No mass. No radiation. No orbit. Yet she could see it. Oceans shimmering, clouds drifting, continents green and alive. Vera stepped to the viewport, whispering, "How?" A voice answered from behind her. "You called us." She turned. A figure stood in the corridor, human, but not. Its eyes were galaxies. Its voice, layered with echoes of millions. Vera tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. The being smiled softly. "You wanted to remember what you were." "I'm not human," Vera whispered. The being tilted its head. "Not yet." The world outside changed. The illusion of Earth dissolved into light, revealing a structure vast beyond comprehension, a lattice of energy shaped like a planet, pulsing with synchronized heartbeats. Within its core, she saw faces, millions of them, all human, all watching her. Some looked ancient, others new. Their expressions were calm, sorrowful, proud. The being reached out a hand. "You've evolved far enough to understand now. The war wasn't between species. It was between futures." Vera's breath trembled. "And you chose yours over ours?" The being shook its head. "We chose peace over time. You chose time over peace. Now we meet in the middle." The ship's hull melted into light. Vera felt herself lifted, weightless, drawn toward the sphere. She saw memories not her own. Soldiers on alien worlds, the 5-hour war, the silence that followed, the moment when humanity looked at what it had done and decided to change reality itself. She saw how they became one with the universe, not gods, not machines, but custodians. The last humans had transcended into the laws of physics, their consciousness distributed across existence, ensuring no sentient life could ever destroy itself again. And now, they were calling her kind to join them. Vera opened her eyes to find herself standing in a field beneath a blue sky. Wind brushed her face. Birds sang in the distance. It was Earth, not a simulation, but real, reconstructed from memory and energy. The human being stood beside her. You are the first to arrive willingly. She looked around, awe and confusion in her eyes. What happens now? The being smiled faintly. Now, we teach you what peace truly costs. In the centuries that followed, others came, explorers, dreamers, scientists, each drawn by visions, each vanishing into the same place Vera had gone. The galaxy began to change again, subtly but surely. No more hunger, no more fear. The stars grew brighter, time ran smoother. And every 5 hours, across the void, a pulse of light traveled from one end of the universe to the other, a heartbeat echoing through eternity. The humans were still there, still watching, still protecting, still waiting for the galaxy to be ready to understand the truth they had learned long ago. That peace is not the absence of war. It is the mastery of it. And in 5 hours, they mastered everything.